Hi, I'm Dave, owner of Future Past Vintage Collectibles, and this is my daughter, Rachel.
Hello.
And how are you doing today?
I'm doing so
We
good.
got some fun stuff to talk about.
Yes, I'm going to just quickly announce this week's giveaway of the My Light 2s and the fullbacks.
Yeah.
The winner is Zombie Prophet. Congratulations. Info is in the description box on how you can get that prize. If you are new here, we are comic dealers. My dad presses and cleans his own books and he buys collections. We focus on Bronze and Copper Age comics. I know we have a lot of new subscribers, so thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited.
Today we're going to talk about some modern books. We're going to pull some stuff. We have a lot of modern books.
We do.
And I really want to put some focus on books that I personally bought at a local comic book store and kind of talk about that experience a little bit. Also to kind of talk about where things are going. And that's really what the first part of the show is today. We want to talk about the current comic book market. Things really have changed since I reintroduced myself to the hobby 2.5 years ago. And when I came in, I had really been away from the hobby for 20 years. It was vastly different then. And now it's going through another shift. So it was my timing. But let's have a chat about it.
I actually have a list of questions for you.
Bring it.
Just to kind of start off, because a lot of people, again, are new. We already know, at least like in past videos, you've talked about buying collections. But where else do you buy your comics from, being a comic dealer?
What really got me back into the hobby is I had about 12 long boxes of books that I've been carrying around for decades. The 20 years that I wasn't collecting. Multiple states, multiple houses. So I had that foundation of books, 3,000 books or so. Really, since then, I've bought tens of thousands of comic books. And one of the places I bought comic books in the very beginning was online. And then I got on the CGC board, and that really kind of changed my focus. I bought a lot of comic books on the CGC board.
We've had videos before where you talk about like Comic Link, an auction house.
Yep.
What other like auction houses do you personally purchase from, or are there other ones that you purchase from other than Comic Link?
There are, and Heritage is a big one. And I bought a lot of books on Heritage. It's a little more expensive. Does have a different type of selection. They have a lot more older books. A lot more Golden Age books. Not that that's what I was buying, but I did buy some Golden Age books when I got back to the hobby. There is another auction site called Comic Connect that I used to buy books at a lot. Mm-hmm. And then Comic Link, I've bought books from Comic Link. eBay auctions. There's Pedigree Auctions, which is a smaller auction site. And even Collectors Comics, new auction site, I've purchased a couple books on that. So I do look at all of them, but they're definitely all offering something different. They're not the exact same. Yeah.
What would you consider, like out of all the things that you listed, would be the most reputable place to purchase books, or that you prefer to purchase books from because you trust them?
I trust Heritage and I trust Comic Link. And I think they're probably the two premium auction houses. I've never had a bad experience. I've overpaid, and that's a different part of the conversation.
Avenue, absolutely.
But in terms of the service, they're a little slow. Heritage is a little faster in terms of delivery. But I also know that they're waiting. They have very large auctions and they're waiting for everyone to pay before they start processing. So it takes about 2 months to get a book back from Comic Link.
Well, and another thing about auctions is that there's a buyer's premium or a BP that you may not know about if you don't purchase off of auction houses.
It could be a little complicated if you've never done that before. And Heritage, I guess, is really known for the price that you see the book going for. You have to factor in 20% on top of that. Even Comic Link will have a buyer's premium for some books. It's going to be whatever the auction closed for plus 15%. It's not as common on Comic Link. Comic Connect, I've seen buyer's premiums on top. So 10% is kind of an average number that you would expect as a seller to pay. But some sites charge the seller and the buyer, and that's what that is to make it worth it for them. Yeah.
What about outside of auctions? Because I know some people may be weary to buy on an auction.
Right, and that's true.
for a lot of reasons. But what other things do you find reputable outside of auctions?
I like the CGC board. And if you're not familiar, if you don't mind, you can pull it up.
Yeah.
The website cgccomics.com, that's where people who submit books to CGC will go to that website, and that's where you can do all that. But there's also forums in there, and there's a chat board. So this is a very work-intensive way of buying comic books.
If you're used to using a forum, it can be very daunting. Just to look at your last scrolling.
Sure. So this is probably one of the most solid communities around, in my experience. So this one's been around since CGC's been around, and there are people that have been on that board for 20 years. There's no fee. You work it out with the seller. but it's moderated. It's heavily moderated. So if someone is doing things that are not reputable, they'll get kicked off and they'll get put in the Hall of Shame, which is a real thing. It's a really good format, and I've bought literally thousands and thousands of books on the board. Here's the difference of the board and almost any place else you buy. A lot of times you'll go looking for something and you'll look it up and see if they have any. On the board is what's coming to you. So on any given moment, on any given day, somebody can post a book. It kind of reminds me of how people used to describe war, that it was 95% boredom and 5% sheer terror. So I have seen books get listed and sell instantly. I have bought a book instantly. So I really like it because I like the community. I've gotten to know a lot of the people. I've bought a lot of books from dealers through communications on the board. And I think you'll find that most people that have been around the hobby for a long time are on the board or know about it. So I like the board probably the best, and I don't buy the most there. But it's nice to deal with collectors that really take the hobby seriously. And I have bought some pretty big books.
Are there places that you kind of stay away from, steer clear of?
Yeah. And so I'm always curious, too, on how other people feel about that. Because I think that there's not a place I just mentioned that there aren't people that are beefing with them and don't want to do business with them, But I'll tell you where I like to buy the least, to the point that I won't, and that's in Facebook groups. I think it's sketchy. Not that the people on it are sketchy. I think there's some great solid people. I want to talk about hype. There's people that will just say these rube-like comments such as like, oh, I just found these comic books and I don't know what they're worth. You guys want to buy? And it's almost like, do you think we're fools? We understand that you're shilling your own books. It's just not a good community. Plus, people get flamed a lot. And it's like somebody might put a book up and people start making fun of it and things like that. So I really don't dig that space. And I've probably heard of more people getting ripped off like that.
Just going through groups on Facebook.
Just going through groups and not really, being able to validate things. And here's where I'd like to interject. If you're buying a book and there's a fee involved in the purchase, pay the fee and don't do friends and family. Don't circumvent. If you're using PayPal, don't do friends and family. Do it the way you're supposed to. That way, first of all, it gives you some insurance about getting money back. Mm-hmm. I avoid trying to cut corners like that. Mm-hmm. Another big one is people ship using media mail, and about 2 years ago, they said that if they find out that you're shipping comic books, they'll confiscate them. I've never...
We've never shipped with media mail. So you mentioned that you don't like places like Facebook Marketplace because of the weird stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
I know you've also mentioned to me that you don't love auctions that have no fees attached to them.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the issue with not having fees is that we all know that there's people who might shill an auction and try to push a price up. I think a lot of that was going on in 2021. We were seeing record prices and people were kind of getting used to something being 30, 40, 50% more. All of a sudden, there seems to be this ferocity of bidding that you don't really see that much now. There was a sense of FOMO that was fascinating, actually. And I've experienced it, and I'm recovering.
You were a part of it. You're recovering mentally from it. Financially and mentally.
All things. Spiritually, I'm recovering. So a lot of people who've been around the hobby a long time understand that when you have things like that, you could have someone shilling a price up or bidding on a book for the owner so someone else would bid more. And the downside to that is if they win that book and it's a very expensive book, then they've got to pay shipping, they got to pay a transaction fee, all of these expenses, and it makes it not as good of a proposition if you have fees. If the auction's free and there's no fee involved, what would stop someone who wasn't scrupulous from trying to jack the prices up, take a shot to see if they can get more than fair market? It's just not a fun way to buy comic books, and
feels very unethical to me.
It is. So when an auction doesn't have fees, here's the solution I found. I set a limit.
Like a personal limit.
I will not spend more than X on this book.
Try not to have any FOMO. Then I guess is what you're saying.
Well, I've definitely been reintroduced to the idea that I don't have to get everything right now. There is a chance of overpaying for the wrong books. There are times that overpaying is okay. I've seen it over and over again. People that paid at the time way too much for a book that's really hard to get, and that book did nothing but go up. And that's a win, but you really don't know if that's going to happen. On those types of free auctions, I'm more leery because there's not the controls, basic controls that would almost hesitate someone to think about doing something like that. Yeah, so I prefer not to use those auctions. I have, but I think it's a better practice to set limits, know what something's worth, and for goodness sake, if you're in an auction, look on eBay real quick to see if that book isn't for sale on eBay for cheaper. Auctions aren't for everyone. Watching an auction, even if you don't have money, is very good to understand the market. So I watch auctions I'm not in all the time, you know.
Well, let's talk about something that you mentioned that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
eBay.
All right.
So eBay is the largest comic market. You agreed with that.
Yeah.
And we use eBay. We sell on eBay. We buy on eBay.
Right.
Like eBay is a big thing that we utilize as a business.
I was an early adopter on eBay in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you've been selling on eBay for 10 years,
Yeah.
plus 20 years, 25 years. How long have I been alive?
500 years.
So I think for people that, most everyone I think has purchased something on eBay at some point, especially if they're watching this channel.
Yep.
As a comic dealer and seller and buyer, what would you say are like the pros and cons of buying on eBay?
It's good to be able to look up a book at any time. I just mentioned a moment ago, if you're in an auction and a book seems to be getting pricey, make sure that a copy's not on eBay for cheaper. So it really, I think it helps balance you that there's this just warehouse of comic books. That's a good thing, you know, it's positive. Another good thing is that it can be very fast. You can order a book today and have it this week. You know, I've seen that over and over again. That's a good thing. Another thing that I use probably the most is sold data. You can find information about the books that sold in the last 90 days. It doesn't go back farther than that. And that information is often included in sites like Cover Price and the other sites you see that are talking about prices. Primarily, people use eBay. Sometimes I look up to see what people are asking for a book. So if I have a book and I'm really no idea what that book's doing right now, I'll look it up on eBay and see what people are asking. Moving to a con. I know it's going to be probably 30-40% less than what I'm seeing because everyone overprices significantly on eBay. Everyone knows that. There are fees, and I told you there's a lot of fees related to selling, and people want to recover that. And it's one of those things that once you pass a threshold that, what's another $5? Well, to someone buying, another 5 cents might be too much. This is another frustration more than downside or upside. People lowball people all the time. And then what I don't like about that is that people take a really crass position in how they're buying a comic book. Like they don't really want to meet you, talk to you, understand you, have a discuss. It's like, you know, sell it to me.
For nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I have gotten, as a seller, I've gotten some laughable offers, and it's okay, you're fishing, right? It's offensive at times, but I've also learned as a buyer that I've gotten a lot of good deals and I've asked people for discounts, but it's not always appropriate. I'll tell you right now, if I think something's priced fairly, before I haggle for $5, I'll probably buy it. Especially if the grade's there, because I'm more focused on grade than I am price. And that's an issue, that's a con. There are people on eBay that are reputable. There are people that are really good graders. The other 95%, not so much, you know. There are dealers that have stores, right? For instance, my comic shop, they're always like 10 or 15% above fair market value.
But they sell stuff all the time.
They post, you know.
They have a lot of listings.
So, yeah, what they're doing is they're actually consigning because they have such a big following. And they're reputable. I actually trust them. They do a pretty good job. I've bought things from them. I bought new books from them. But on eBay, they're a little pricey. You can always go to them, by the way.
To their website.
Yeah, don't buy it from them. If you see that they're selling a book, then you go right to their store and you'll be able to save probably 10%.
Yeah, with the fees. Another pro that you had mentioned to me before is that as a buyer, you're protected. So if you need to return something, or if something gets damaged in shipping, like eBay will protect your purchase and you'll get your money back and things like that, which is good.
That's probably the biggest benefit on eBay.
Huge, because like you can't really. I mean, even though like things like the board and stuff like that, you trust the people on there, but like on Facebook Marketplace, you can't You have no idea if
Right.
you're going to get scammed, kind of like what we talked about before.
You could be getting catfished.
And then on the other side of
Comic
that...
book catfished.
Yeah. On the other side of that, though, as a con, and then on the other end of that, as a seller, if you have an auction, and as a buyer, I guess, if you have an auction and the person bids the highest amount, if they don't pay, then there's no penalty.
I don't, and that's a really good point. I don't know if there's a penalty or not. Right? I don't know, but I know that I've been a victim of that. Well, now, there are situations that something can happen to someone in a moment's time, and we all understand that within reason. And there's going to be instances where something happens. It could even be that someone didn't like the book or whatever. They changed their mind, got buyer's remorse in the last minute. Who knows, right? I used to sell a lot on dollar auctions. I'd post something for $1, and I really got burned by someone not paying me, and I talked about it a couple episodes ago on a Werewolf by Night 32, and at the time it was the highest sale, and the person backed out, decided not to pay me. Really frustrating. Like most things, though, that's not the end of the story. I ended up selling it for more later, so it was fortuitous. Let's go on to a buyer's perspective. As a buyer, if this guy couldn't pay, what if he wasn't bidding? What would that book have sold for? Now, I'm telling you that I would have made less money, but it was still the right thing that someone should have been able to win the book for less because that person's not in the running. So let's say it would have gone for $6,500. It hurts more than me. It hurts other bidders, and it really just kind of jacks that whole sale of that book up. So, and that's another thing I like about Heritage. They're really good. Like if you don't pay and stuff, you can't buy stuff from them. You know?
You're blacklisted, which is fair.
And if you know.
I'm sure it hurts your ratings on eBay if you don't pay. I'm sure there's something that happens there.
It doesn't, but it's happened so much in the last 6 months. I've heard so many people complain about it. It creates a lack of stability that I don't care for when it comes to comic books.
Yeah.
And I just stopped selling in auctions.
Yeah, we haven't done one of those in a long time on eBay.
I don't remember the last time.
It's too risky. Well, kind of sticking with the same topic, but changing it a little bit. Because I know, again, like a lot of people that are watching and just in general buy on eBay.
Right.
And there's so many different listings, hundreds and hundreds, sometimes of the same book. What are the things that you stay away from or things that you may find misleading when you're looking at eBay listings and trying to purchase something? Like, what are the things that you look for or try to avoid?
I find things that are misleading to others. I get annoyed with a lot of the hype. So what that means to me is that you're over-representing something. What do I mean by over-representing it? Making it seem as if a person buys this, that it's a good deal, when it's not. That's an over-representation. It might be the fair deal in the moment, but is it the next hot thing? Who can really say? But I guess one of the ones I like the least, there's people that will sell a raw book and tell you to slab it. So it'll say...
There's a lot of those on there, too, which is...
X-Men 293, super high grade, slab it.
$30.
You know, and then
pay $30 for this.
Let's say the price is even in line. There's no grade indicated. A lot of times they won't even take it out of the bag. If it's a new book, people seem to have this idea that all new books are 9/8, and I'm here to tell you most new books are not 9/8, especially if you have a pool box, you know, that's been roughed up. Or you may get stuck buying something right off the rack, you know. All they got to do is place it in a wooden rack, and you've got a corner bend on every book.
Yeah.
You know, because we've slabbed a lot of modern brand new books, and I'll tell you that it's not an exaggeration. If I pool 50, do you think 15 would make the cut?
If it was 100...
Okay.
I'd say 25% are good.
That are 9/8 and don't need to be touched. Yeah.
At least.
And we bag and board. We take care of books. That's one of the issues is that people act like you're supposed to go slab it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why didn't you slab it? People really like trying to tell you what a great idea is if you spend your money with them. That's not really the way it works. I don't appreciate those kind of just brash overstatements.
Yeah. Another one is just saying it's high grade, but not really saying anything else, not putting a grade.
Well, sure. I've seen books say mint that were in poor. You know,
whatever mint means to them.
Another reason is that they don't know how to grade, and they just eyeball it. And another pet peeve is like one picture in a bag. If it was the right book, I'm still going to send. I'm going to send a request. I'd like to see it out of the bag. I'd like to see the front cover, back cover, staples. And I'm looking for warranty. I'm looking for a conversation to happen between me and the seller that's documented within eBay's infrastructure in their emails. that say I'm interested in these things because you said it was 9.4. So here we go. eBay's a cherry pick for me. I'm looking for the stuff that I think would be really hard to find, and I usually, if I find it on eBay, find it really rare that anyone ever says a grade is actually lower than it is. They always say it's higher,
Well, it's funny because our whole mentality is if we're not sure about a grade, we go down.
Yeah, there's an ethics to dealing with comic books, and you only get what you give. You should give what you get.
Yeah.
That's why the CGC board, to me, I've had people send me thousands of dollars of comic books without me sending them any money yet. There really is some very solid, knowledgeable, trustworthy people on there. Mm-hmm. And I love doing business like that. On the other hand, with people that don't want to talk to you and they just want to rough you up, and they're trying to squeak out the best deal so they can make money instead of you,
Really? Yeah.
So I attempt not to do that myself. I try to offer people fair prices. Sometimes if I think something's really cheap, I try to jump on that too.
I know that we've talked about things that we utilize to price things out, but what are the things that you use just to kind of give them an idea to help understand pricing and to see how to determine if something's the right price?
And this is a big topic. I'm just going to breeze over for a moment.
Yeah, just like a very brief.
Because really you could drill into this and it could be its own conversation.
We spend a lot of time doing this just personally when we sell things. So
Right. There's not one way to do it. There just isn't. There are tools, and all the tools have different focuses or different competencies, right? eBay is one of them. So sold books on eBay is probably the best place to get an idea on what a raw book should go for. There's caveats to that. So if it's $5 and a book's going for $5 and they've been selling for $5, what grade? So you really have to start drilling down, looking at each sale, looking at the pictures to get an understanding. There's a generalization you can do. It might tell you in Cover Price, now that Cover Price is connected with CLZ, which is the software that we actually use to categorize our comics. You see right in there the cover price. Most times it's not right.
Because it does an average, and sometimes it's skewed.
Well, sometimes it'll tell you the most that book's ever sold for because you have a raw copy or whatever. Yep. So you have to still drill down. It gets you somewhere though. It's better than nothing. So, and then look at the past sales. You go straight to eBay to look at the sales. All they're doing is gleaming that information from eBay. Go right to GP analysis. Those three things I use more than anything, in concert with each other. There's an analysis process that is applied to them that's a little different. And that really is about doing the hard work and kind of going back on a book to figure out what its real worth is. What I've learned about pricing is if you remove FOMO and you become optimal in how you price, I'd like to buy this book as cheap as I can. That's one thought. The other thought is I'd like to get the highest grade copy of that book that I can find. They're two different universes.
They are.
They don't marry often.
Yeah.
Right? They can. You've heard this before, and I'll say it again today. You'll regret the books you didn't get way more than the books that you overpaid for. Understanding how much something cost, I think I do a pretty good job of that, but I also think there's institutional knowledge that I'm not sharing that I don't even know I do.
Cool. So we've already talked about a lot of things.
Yep.
Another avenue I know that we wanted to talk about today is around resources outside of websites and things like that.
Information.
Just information in general on how to determine what books to buy, pricing.
Oh, whatever movie they're going to shoot next, spend thousands of dollars on a brand new comic book. And then everyone's going to want it. It's going to be as big.
You'll sell it for $1 million tomorrow.
You'll retire on those, especially that 1 in 5,000 that you bought that you paid $1,000.
Top 10 hot keys right now, $4 million.
You have to get this book. I'll tell you where I don't like to get prices, and that's from other people's YouTube videos. Personally, because they're wrong so often. You guys, I watch a lot of comic book videos. A lot of what I got in terms of information coming back to the market, partly my brother, we talked for hours a day, and watching YouTube. It's fantastic to have that much content. It really is. And I learned so much watching videos. I'm looking to either learn something or confirm a thought. When it comes to pricing and weekly top 10s or this, and I don't really buy almost any of that. Even the most reputable channels out there, they're not using information that's really actionable sometimes. I just saw a show that was talking about Something is Killing the Children, #1. getting under $500. I said, I'm a buyer. Where? I will.
I'm ready.
I'll buy right
buy
now.
it.
That's a great price for that book. I'm in. I know about the print run in that book. It's actually a book I like. If it gets to $400, I will buy as many copies as I can get a hold of.
When I think if we say anything over and over again, it's don't trust one sale of a book. Like, that doesn't determine the price.
Correct.
Like, that's one thing I feel like we drill over and over again in all of our videos.
So I went to an auction on eBay right after I saw that. It was over $600. So I think it was $611 with 12 hours to go. No, it's not under $500 when an auction that very same day is going for that. The next day, there might be an auction for $350. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things. If you hustle and you grind and you look at everything and you're constantly following something, you'll get a good deal. How much grind do you have in you? I think that these are great entertainment, these videos, and that's why I really try hard to not tell anyone what to do. Rachel and I, we like to just talk about what we're experiencing and be as honest and as transparent as we can, because we feel that people want that in life.
It's so easy to like see a video and know that they're just sponsored. Like, that's all that they care about.
Oh, you mean
not
like,
saying that sponsors aren't good.
Like it's an infomercial.
Yeah.
Our channel's an infomercial.
I mean, it is. Like, we're talking about our business and the things that we do.
There's levels to the game.
There is.
If I wasn't passionate and didn't love this as a career, I wouldn't be doing this. I mean, I'm putting my heart and soul into it because I believe in it, and I'm a lover of art, you know. So here we are talking about comic books, but I don't think that I would just believe anything anyone says.
Yeah.
Do your own research. Learn how to research. You'll find that a lot of times the information that people are using is not accurate. And next time someone says you can get a book, I don't even care what book it is. Just next time someone says this just dropped, go see if you can find one. It's fascinating.
I know for our like vintage comic show and tells, sometimes we'll be like, this is the rarest book ever. And you might be able to find like a really low grade copy on eBay.
Yeah.
I think it all goes back to don't trust everything you hear.
Yeah.
And like, well, what we always say too is we're not telling you what to do. We're just saying what we do.
Right.
So make your best decision with the information you have out there and don't trust the first thing you see.
I think that a lot of people on YouTube, and you let me know if I'm wrong, they want to see comic books. They also want to hear things that can help them in buying or selling comic books. And there's a lot more to it with things like grading, slabbing, and we're going to do some other shows in the future that really go into detail, because there's a lot of misconceptions about those things too, you know. So just talking about what we know and sharing that information.
And I'm not saying that we don't think sponsored content is important, because I feel like if we had a good sponsor, we'd be excited to share it with you guys.
Right.
But I don't know. We're all about being genuine here on this channel. I don't see that going away anytime soon.
Until we sell out.
Until we sell.
To some eyeglass company, because you know
we're both blind.
We'll start selling chocolate bars like Mr. Beast.
No, we won't. You can quote me on that.
I like chocolate.
I'm vegan, so that's not gonna happen.
Vegan chocolate.
Okay, I want to talk about something else now.
Talk.
We're gonna do another giveaway, but this giveaway isn't going to be announced until we hit 3,000 subscribers. We're actually going to announce a winner every week that we post one of these videos until we hit 3,000 subscribers, and there'll be a winner every week. And we'll announce a prize every week.
And then at the end of that, what we're going to do is another drawing of all the winners, and that will determine which winner gets which prize. So
woohoo!
They're going to be good prizes, and they're going to be very different than each other. So
yes. So next week we'll announce the first winner. All you have to do if you want to be a part of it is like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to our channel. And we're gonna get it.
Yeah. So whenever we get there, we're going to let you know like what your choices are.
Yes.
If you're number one, you get to choose from everything. If you're the last one, you get what's left.
And that's the way it goes. Hi guys, Future Rachel here in the middle of editing this week's video. We've decided to split this video up into 2 parts. So we are going to post the second part tomorrow, where we go over the modern books from 2021 and the price points and what that looks like today. Show you some really cool covers, which means we're going to have 3 videos this week. So we're very excited about that. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much.